Okay, welcome back. Ryan's Thoughts in Cars. Today, yeah, I was going through a video. I was making shorts out of a longer video, and I came across something that I had said in one of my videos. It was about dating. The title of this one is probably something to do with dating, relationships. I do talk about that stuff quite a lot, and I always have. But in the video, I was noticing that I had said, I keep doing this same thing over and over and over, and I keep getting the same results, right? Then it hit me. Oh, that's the definition of insanity, where you're doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Now, I have changed as a person through dating um, my entire life here. I've upped my game and all of that. But the thing is so I keep, I don't know, this belief. I keep this, I guess, standard or uh, of where I want when I'm looking for somebody. I have this expectation in the back of my head of I'm looking for a long term relationship. I have always valued them a great deal, um, and I always thought, hey, that's the way to go, right? That's the way to go. What I didn't want is like casual sex and one night stands and stuff, and then hopefully hang on, and hopefully it'll turn into something longer. I thought that's not the way to go. That's You're conning yourself, right? You'll get trapped in some, you know, bad relationship with some screwed up woman, and you'll both be so dysfunctional that, you know, drama, 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 which is kind of what happened when, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. I was going to say it happened with my, first girlfriend thing. But, this will add to what I'm saying here, actually, now that I think about it, where it was a long term relationship, and I was just doing dating stuff like you do when you're in junior high and high school or whatever, getting together to kiss girls and things like that. But I still, even back then, had this narrative in my head where this whole dating thing, this whole trying to kiss girls, this whole getting together and this attraction and all these feelings and all of that stuff that goes along with men and women getting together. I always figured that's all of this is designed for us to get together and be in a long term relationship, right? So I would always force that. I would always push that of myself and of the person I was with, saying, this is not fleeting, right? This connection we have is doesn't happen every day, kind of thing. It means something more than just one time. And I mean, you're young at the time, and you don't understand how the physiology works with attraction and sex. And it's all new to you, and it's all drug. It all feels good, and you're in that happy state, drugged state where you're high. And I always thought, okay, well, because that's what I always heard people say, older people anyway. Oh, yeah, you feel something, you feel that, and it means love and all of this. And it's not. It's not. I mean, I think if you keep it that simple, back in the old days, it would have worked because the society was set up for you had to stay together long term, right? Now, like through my lifetime, from the very first starting to date thing, um, the society has, instead of trying to keep people together, has completely gone the opposite way, where no, it's you don't have to be with someone forever. You don't have to be forced to stay in, a bad marriage. You don't have to be forced to stay together if you're not happy. You don't have to stay together if your goals don't align for whatever reason. And then there's good evidence for that. There's really good evidence for that. Marriages trapped in, women trapped in abusive marriages, men trapped in abusive marriages, physically, all of that stuff, whatever, you know, where it's made it so there's fewer consequences by society if you don't stay together. Everybody can leave at any time that they want, sort of thing. I was in school and there was something that hit me when I was in school, and it was that, all these studies on um, in the animal world for which animals are monogamous, which ones aren't. And I'm sure you've heard the memes on these where was it geese or something, swans are mate for life, or ducks mate for life, or something like that, right? But humans don't. Humans aren't set up to be monogamous. We're just not. And I couldn't settle myself with that. I was like, oh, that's new information. So, what I'm chasing is a lie. I don't believe it. Immediately discount it. So because I'm thinking, so all these players and all these people running around having the casual sex and the one night stands, and you know, women getting into relations or getting together with some guy who's just hitting it for as long as he can, playing the game as long as he can to keep getting the sex out of her, and getting her to pay his bills and getting her, I didn't want to be that guy, you know. Especially when you turn around and say, "Well, I thought, this was the deal. I thought, you know, he was good. He was charismatic. He was extremely sexy. The sex was good. I always felt, you know, something around him and made me feel something." And but I thought we were going on to long term thing, like marriage and kids, or just a long term relationship. But all that happened is I got used for my sex, right? Now I'm shutting the tap off for everybody, and like I would hear stories like that, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. I don't, I'm not that guy. I'm a stand up guy, right? I'm looking for a long term relationship. I'm looking for reciprocal. I was going to say interest, but it's not interest. And I guess this belief of let's grow together and support each other through the trials and tribulations and stick with it and grow and bond, and then after a bunch of years of you know standing behind each other, all of that, the love kicks in, and that's when you experience the true love of partners. You see it in I see it in my parents. I see it in other older generations where the couples are still together. They may not still like each other, like everything they do with each other, but when it comes down to the hard stuff in life, they've got each other's backs and they stand the line together, right? And I think that's where this belief comes from. This narrative I have in my head for these long-term relationships, this ideal. Now I've been doing this my entire life. Like putting myself early on, listening to women. You know, be that chivalrous man, be that romantic man, be that provider man, and be that sexy man. Fill all these roles, and I'll stick with you, and we'll face the world together. And when the tough times come, we'll stand the line, and I got you back, and you'll have my back, and we'll grow old together and reminisce in our rocking chairs or on our deathbeds, going, you know, found love, did it together. So you feel, as a guy listening to this, I'll buy that. That sounds like that fits my narrative just right, And I go out on these dates and I meet these women, and it's like, well, they're all saying that, but really, what I found is through my lifetime, Gen X or whatever you want to call it, right? The first wave of women that really took over the world, you know, really had power, really, really were changing the laws and things in society to make sure that, they got what to get what women should have had for eons, right? Independence, power, things like that. And the narrative never really changed from women. They all want this chivalrous thing. They want the romance. They want the sex. They want all of this, right? And they keep saying it. And when I was going out on these dates and I was meeting women, and just everywhere, it didn't matter where. It was in the club. It was on the lately, for the past decade and a bit, 15 years or so, it's been on dating apps. Before that, it was on forums. Before that, you know, in the workplace, at school. I think the first time I heard a different narrative was Sex in the City, where it's okay to be out there and have the sex, the one night stands, and be promiscuous. And I don't think Sex in the City is the problem, was the problem, or anything like that. I'm not blaming the television show. I'm blaming the women and the narratives, right? Because long before that show came out, I'm going on these and I'm meeting these women, and this is what was happening, right? I learned that they'll say all of this stuff, long-term monogamous, and want the babies in the baby carriage and husband to grow old with and things like that, when that wasn't the truth. I'm sitting in, because I, I always tested things that worked, things that didn't work. Always, always, always have been doing that. And my last little dating stint here on the apps just reconfirmed it again. My generation of my pool of dating choices has been false, um, this false narrative with an underlying thing of they just want women have just been wanting to have the freedom to have sex whenever they want, with whomever they want, with no repercussions. Okay. And I'd be with this person, and I'd be buying this narrative from her of this, goody two shoes thing, traditional long term marriage thing. And I keep putting it in front of them, and that's not the truth. Now, I did learn, because I'm like, okay, this isn't the truth. Like, I can't present myself like a decent, upstanding, kind, generous, chivalrous, romantic, sexy man, because that's not what they really want, right? What they really want is they really want me to turn them on so that they feel okay giving up the sex, which is fine, I guess, right? But whenever I was in a situation like that with a woman, like, I'm really attracted to you, she's really attracted to me, and I'm like, I can overlook a whole bunch of flaws if the payoff is this willingness to go long term and run the course, right? Because I've seen it in my aunts and uncles, and you know, every old person's marriage that I've seen as a child, right? Growing up as a teenager and in my 20s. These people don't, you know, yeah, she's just as screwed up as he is, but still they're making it work for, and I couldn't figure out the reason why it's there, because some guys weren't the provider. You know, sometimes the woman was. It was all over the place, and it was hard to dissect and figure out what is actually happening here. And I just thought, well, then there must just be this connection of hotness, like really. But that doesn't even explain it, because as you get old, you're not hot anymore, right? She's still wanting to have sex with him, and he looks like, he's can't have sex. His belly's out to here, and picks his nose, and the whole thing. He's got hair growing out of his ears. He's got one eyebrow. It's the whole thing. But she's still there, and the whole thing, trying to dissect it, trying to figure out what is it that's working. Never could, never could really pick it out, other than trauma bonding. Really, is what it comes down to. Yes, you have the hotness. Yes, you're super attracted, physically attracted, and that lasts for long enough where then something super bad happens, and you're there for each other. And it's kind of at that moment where it's like, I can't let this person go, because trying to remanufacture that out with somebody else is probably not going to happen, because you don't think of that. Like, I can't leave this person. This person will. And that's where the protective thing comes in, right? As a man, and all of that. And in a day and age where most of that stuff is gone, where you're not killing each other at house parties, or gunfights, or we've pretty much eliminated where you're picking up somebody through your lifetime. You're not picking up somebody who's beaten and bloodied up from a bad situation and caring for them, nursing them back to health, and then sticking together. As house violence has fallen, things like that, things like that, gang rape stuff, at parties are not commonplace anymore. Except the UK, I guess. I guess you're allowed to do that there. That's a different story. Uh, so yeah, I'm going over, watching my thing. It was over and over, and I'm like, okay, so That's when the earlier videos you saw, like I'm said, I'm done. I thrown in the towel. The only thing that's available out there is the casual sex and the one night stand thing. And I think maybe that's that's the way to go. That's got to be the way to go. That's because that's the only way that to create and manufacture all of those feelings and connectedness and stuff like that is through sex, right? My last little stint, I did the same thing where I went out and was the decent guy and I paid for everything and things like that. And then, okay, no, yeah, yeah, this is just confirming it's still like that out there. And then you go out there and you're like Mr. Bad Boy and you totally don't give a shit about what she says and you're totally ignoring everything and you're grilling her at the table. And she's like, at the end, she's like, fuck, take me home. And you're like, no, sorry. Like, if it's that easy, sorry. Because it's far easier to do that. It's far easier to do that. It's far easier to do that. And and the same message is still on women's profile. The same message is still coming out of their mouths. I want somebody who puts in effort. I still want somebody who does. I want somebody. I want somebody. I want somebody. But as soon as you give it, it's like it's not reciprocated. And I think really that's what it comes down to, right? Like you as a guy, you got to do all this stuff. You got to do all this stuff. Like just the dating app thing is a heroic amount of work, right? It's a full time job just to do numbers so that you can get on, see a person in real life, right? It's a heroic amount of numbers, especially even if you're good looking. If even if you've got a good profile and you've got really good pictures, you, you you just get more people interested in you. But you still have to play the game. You still have to figure that out. You can't just meet up with people, talk, bond, and hit it or go your separate ways. It doesn't work like that. You still gotta play the game, you still gotta have game, and you still gotta use the game, and you have to really vet the women because one long term marriage was close to 10 years. I was actually married for 10 years. Knew the girl. We had history as friends beforehand. All of that. We all had common interests. We had common friends. The whole thing, everything that I thought would be working, never worked. Right? Never did. And I was like, you know, back out in the dating pool again, going, oh geez, I got to do this, go through this again. Hey, so I'm one more try. I really just want somebody that I don't have to fucking keep doing this for. And the whole time, the pool is smaller and smaller and smaller of people who actually want to stay together. Who, not people who want to stay together. People who can actually do it. People who can actually do it. Who can manufacture that. And there's more studies coming out saying, well, the longer you do, you aren't in a long-term relationship, the chances of you being able to actually function in a long-term relationship is shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter the longer you wait, right? So I'm in this dating pool of women where they're not capable of being in a long term, regardless of what they say, you know. And I think that's where that table thing comes in because it's like your value is, from any logical perspective, actually means that whatever your pre and post date expenses are, no matter how much you've been working on yourself, you're only good for a short time. You're not long-term relationship material. And it's not because of how you think, it's not because of what you believe in, it's not what you demand, it's not how pretty you are, how much you stay in shape, or how many therapists you've seen. The simple fact that you've gone so long without being in a long-term relationship, you are just now not capable. And you'll be wondering why you can't. You'll try to get into one and you will start going, what's going on here? Like, I'm so not interested all of a sudden. And your guy's wondering it too, and nobody knows what's going on. And you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know. It's not. And then you're back out on the dating pool again, and you're doing it all over again. And you're like, what's going? I don't know why. I want this, but I can't get this. You can't get this because you can't do it. You can't do it. You know. I think after trying my first long-term relationship there, really young with my first girlfriend, first real girlfriend, and and I was gonna say having the rug pulled out from underneath me, but that's not really what happened. But yeah, what's happened. I want this, I want that, and I'm like, I'll give it to you. Here it is, and it's well, no, actually, that's not really what I wanted. I'm gonna look for it in the next spot. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. Then I got into my marriage, and I'm like, everything's here. All the resources you need to work this out, whatever you're going through, is here. What do you need? You need that. Okay, let's go do that. You want me to do this? I'll do this. And she couldn't explain it, whatever it was. But the thing is that she's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, there is no coming back. There is no coming back because now you have no value. Once you leave, you have no value. And that's what happened. And I'm out in the dating pool and it's the same story. And I'm looking at the profiles and it's all kind of the same thing. And I'm like, maybe what I'm after, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I'm not going to get it. And that's why I said, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel with this. That's why I'm angry with this. I'm not so frustrated. The good time that I had while dating was figuring all of this stuff out, right? Like figuring out the game on the apps, like how to get people to answer you, how to get phone numbers, how to set this up. How many people do I have to talk to get this, to get that, to get this, to get somebody to sit in front of me, and then that part of that game was like super interesting. Like that was the funnest part, right? I mean, texting people saying whatever the fuck you want, right? It was hilarious. I started a job out here, and there was a young guy that I was working with, right? And he was using Tinder, and I mentioned Tinder because I was like, I'm on the dating thing. I had Tinder downloaded, and I said it came up when we had biometric data, and I said delete, right? And he said, oh yeah, yeah. He was 23 or something like that. The guy total scrub, but he was hilarious. And he's like, no, 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 yeah, I use Tinder because I'm like, what do you use out here? What apps work out here? He's like, I use Tinder, and I'm like, I can't use Tinder. Like, I just deleted that, right? And he's like, oh, it works great. It's this and that and the other thing, right? And he's showing me the stuff that he's saying to these women, and it was mostly older women, right? Women in the 30s and 40s, picking them up, hitting on them. But he would send out these messages, and I'm sitting here driving around in these places together, right? And he's showing me, he's going, oh, I want to shit in your mouth. Stuff I never even would have thought, right? Like out there. The kid was out there, and the shit worked. That was the funniest thing. And I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna see. Yeah, and then he come back. Said, yeah, I'm just gonna see her again. We had sex for. We're having sex again. And I was like, okay. Okay, I totally get what he was doing because I kind of did something similar back in the past, and but not to that extreme. But this kid was like totally extreme, and I was like, "That's working," and he was like, "Yeah, it's working. It's hilarious." He's like, "I just say whatever I want. It doesn't fucking matter." He wasn't good looking, wasn't, but he wasn't a total toad. That was the other thing, right? Like he was scruffy and the whole thing, and he was just some. It was the total demeanor that you have to have in order to get chicks. Totally laid back, stoner vibe. The you know, and I'm like, it's still working. Okay, that's what that's what I'll do, and and that was the fun part about doing the dating part was doing this stuff to women, saying these things, and them lapping it up, totally engaging, totally, you know, yeah. The some of the stories were insane, silly. I can't wait to jump on top of you, things like that. And I'd be showing my daughter this stuff, and she would be going, "Oh my god, like really? This is what it is? Like what? Like you can't no." And I'm like, Shh. I said, "This isn't the only one. Here, this is the other one. This is the same thing." And then I said, "This is how it works." And she's a cat. I said, "Look, you know me, like the decent guy and things like that, right?" I said, "Here, this is what happens when I'm being, respectful and courteous and nice and things." And she's like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "This list is longer of like people who stop communicating, like they won't have nothing to do with me, and be swiping." And she's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, take the phone, go through it. Like, look, it's a sad state of affairs out there." And then I told her, "Yeah, like I did this back before, where it worked really well, and I thought it was just a one-off thing, but then I was hitting on girls before coming back home from school, sort of thing, and it was still working." She's like, she goes, that explains a lot. That's why I didn't get along with people in school, like, with any of the girls, right? Like they were screwed up, right? And I said it's been a constant thing throughout my lifetime where you know that was that's what was going on. That's how women respond. I, I know in the house here we talk about the women thing and all of that and the respect and all of that. And I said that I do that. You see me do that. You know, you've watched me since a little kid, even with your mom and her fucking off like that. You know, I said this is how it works for guys. This is how it works. So when you get these messages like that, like she's not on any apps or anything, but she had dated a few guys through school and through work, not at work or anything like that, but just people who knew people. It was just an island, it was a small community. Everybody's like, yeah, this person's single, that person, yeah, you should get together. It was that way. It was really good. So she met some boys, and there's another story about that, but maybe I'll tell it at some future date. But this is what's going on, and that's why I said I'm throwing in the towel. Like it's like that's it. Like it's the only thing the only thing that is working and available is even to get a nice girl who has value and who is worth investing in still defaults to these things where you have to manipulate the shit out of it and get them to have sex with you as soon as possible and let it run its course until basically, I mean, if you see the red flags as a guy and you're like, okay, well, no, I'm just gonna walk away or whatever, right? But if you keep, I kind of dig this or whatever, you still got to keep doing that stupid game. of keeping them on edge, never letting them know how you feel. Telling them no, telling them to settle down. Though, yeah. And it's like, I, I've got to be this master therapist. Women don't have to do that for guys. You know, they just leave us alone and just make fun of us when we do have emotions, right? Like, I really don't know what women can give to men to actually get them back in the game because they're not offering anything substantial, right? You don't want to give it up. Not next chick will. And I'll never get the chance to actually know you. Never actually will get the chance to know you. And even though you've been giving it up and you can't figure out, why guys aren't sticking around, it's because you're choosing, you know, shit guys. It's not because of the pool that's out there. It's because you were terrible at it when you were younger and you still haven't figured it out. And it's the same thing with me, right? I'm still trying to get out there and find a decent chick, and I, you know, it's freaking impossible. I keep trying the same things over and over to bag a doozy, and each instance I'm in it, it's like this actually isn't worth continuing. This really isn't worth continuing. You're out to lunch, lady. Seriously, out to lunch, and I am not taking you as a responsibility. I'm a grown up. You're a grown up. You know, take some accountability and some responsibility onto your own self. Like, and I don't want to be blamed for everything that's wrong with you. I do enough. I'm doing enough just to keep you interested. I think that's what this is about. Anyway, past my time limit. If you stuck around, thank you very much. I really appreciate your viewership. Um, do something good for others and leave a comment in the comment. If you haven't watched one of my videos before, I really push that you push for comments in the comments. It's not for me and it's not for the algorithm. It's because this dating thing is a circus, and anything helpful and insightful should go down in the comments because I'm just some dude sitting in a car, probably smarter than me, and pick stuff out of this that I'm not going to think of right now. I'm probably not going to go back and fix and do anything. That's why your comment is so important down there, because then other people can come and read it and they can go, oh, yes, thank you, and give you a thumbs up for your comment, right? Anything happen in here that you identify with, that you see as good, hit the thumbs up. If you want a thumbs down, I really don't care. It means I'm doing something right. I'm hitting some nerves. And I do talk a lot about relationships. I think I said that at the beginning of the video. I've been doing that for my entire life, adult life anyway. Totally involved with that. Went to school for it. And so I'll end up talking more about it, but it's not going to be the only thing. I created this channel so that, it's 50 years old, day in the life kind of thing. This is what it's like to be living in 2025. And we're not socializing like we used to. This is probably the only way. And it's an outlet. It's an outlet for people to, identify with, to validate their existence with, saying, I'm not the only one. There's others out there like me. And, keep fighting the good fight. See you in the next one.